Hey, what's up YouTube? We're back with another video today. I've been getting so many questions about the Vox engine. New tank added to the game with the invasion of Cyberstan, and it's a menace. It's easily the hardest individual enemy outside of like the Hive Lord they've added. With Leviathans, at least they were flying around and you could kind of just ignore them. But with the Vox engines, you're being thrown into a myriad of maybe 5 at a time, especially on those flag-oriented missions in Tier 10. So I'm getting so many questions of what do you bring in your loadout to take care of them? What do you think about this stratagem versus this stratagem versus this stratagem? What about this combo and that combo? I want to clear it up today. I've been spending a lot of time in Tier 10s just taking them on, using a wide variety of equipment here, and I wanted to give my take on S tier, A tier, so on and so forth, and talk about some of like the synergies and do some like honorable mentions as well at the end that are kind of outside stratagems, but they do perform very well, especially versus the vents. So first, starting off, quick little thing about the Vox engine is that there are a bunch of vents, and each vent, when destroyed, does a bunch of damage to the actual health pool of the overall unit. It's kind of like the flesh mob, where if you destroy a face, it'll do like some damage, and if you destroy a bunch of faces, it'll actually do like a significant amount of health damage. Now, a little caveat is that if you destroy the vent with like a high damage shot, let's say from like a railgun or something like that, you do the 700 damage that you would to the main HP pool, plus the actual like over damage of the main like railgun that you're doing. Right? So you could be doing like a combined effort of like, let's say like 1500 damage versus just a 700. Your goal is to do 11,000 total theoretic damage to kill the unit. Now, with some of the stratagems that we're going to go over today, some of them perform better if they get somewhat lucky and they hit like the back of the head, or they hit like the back of like the tank treads where there's the 2 vents and the one down below. You can get extra damage out of that said stratagem if it lands in the right spot. So there's a little bit of variability with all the stratagems that we have here, just because kinetic like impact damage can be amplified in some of these stratagems, or it could be brought down if it's more like explosive damage, because that's another thing about the vents is that they are explosive damage immune. So if you're trying to shoot a vent with a, let's say, crossbow, really bad at doing it because it does very little impact damage, and then the majority of damage is obviously the explosion. So keep that in mind when you're trying to shoot a vent and you're like, why can't I destroy it? That's why. Now, the second component is the tracks, and like the bottom part of the Vox engine is pretty healthy, but a big element of them is that the tracks are explosive resistant, so 60% as far as the wiki tells us. So some of these stratagems here, you might want to aim lower on the overall Vox, just because you want more damage to splash onto the tracks and do damage to the rest of the overall body at the same time, rather than just aiming at the top forehead, because you're actually going to do less damage with something like the leveler, for instance. So kind of an interesting dynamic there. But yeah, let's get into the overall stratagems. So first we have the Eagle Airstrike. Solid, but nothing insane. I found, like I said in the video yesterday, a little bit hard to get the entire strafing run to land on the target because it's not a very wide target and such. Like, you're gonna have quite a few of the bombs not actually at the target, but when it does acceptable damage. I think you could probably kill at least 1, maybe 1.5 Vox engines in the 3 uses that you have. So good for maybe finishing off a target or initiating a fight with it and doing some splash to enemies around it. Maybe if there's multiple Vox around it, you can do a nice strafing run perpendicularly against multiple. So I'm gonna put it like solid A tier, maybe B+. This might move down a little bit as we place things in the tier list, but we're gonna put it A for now. Because of the explosive damage being mitigated quite a bit, I'm probably gonna put like Cluster Bomb as like a C+ option for the Vox. At least it's quite good at dealing with the enemies around, but a lot of the damage is going to be prevented because of the explosive immunity. You're not really going to get the impact damage that you can get with the Eagle Airstrike with the explosive clusters. So not nearly as good. 500 kg, it will do quite a bit of impact damage and it will do a high degree of explosive, but because it only has 2 uses, the 500 kg honestly feels underwhelming versus the Vox. I do think you could get lucky and let's say it could direct impacts into one of the vent, kills the vent, and does some good explosive damage at the same time. Decent. But because you only have 2 uses, I think overall this is just something that you might just have because you like it for another part of the mission and it feels okay versus the Vox itself. So not particularly amazing. Next, we have the Eagle Napalm. Very similar to the 500 kg. Good explosive damage, good fire. Afterwards, you do have like a fire multiplier. I couldn't really see the Vox being lit on fire, but the wiki tells us that it has a fire multiplier of 1.5. Not exactly sure if it could be properly lit on fire. So this one's a little bit of a weird one. I think I'm going to mostly put it in C tier. I think it's decent, but I couldn't really notice fire affecting it, so it's hard for me to value it as high as something else. Strafing Run, I think is like a solid A+, probably S tier. The only reason I would not probably put it in S tier is just because, like I said in the earlier video, is that there's so much anti-air. Even if it's not an anti-air installation, there's just sometimes random turrets that are anti-air on it. There's one clip from today's stream where like, I think we were calling in a tank, and if you guys don't know, the anti-aircraft turrets try to target the Pelican as it comes in to drop off the tank. And when I just see like 8 anti-aircraft turrets start targeting it across the entire city. So if I was just going to walk in there and try using strafing runs, the vast majority of the city that I was next to, I wouldn't be able to use it. I have to destroy 8 separate anti-air installations in order to get it. That's taxing. So I really love strafing run. I do think it's very good, but it does come down a tier just because you have to fight against that anti-air. 110mm barrages, I think, are a step up above the 500 kg just because it's more reliable raw damage. You get 4 uses. It does seem to track quite reliably. It doesn't hit the side turrets too often. Being absorbed, decent. I liked it. And like we've talked about before, if you get a flanking angle on the Vox, I think you could get some serious damage on top of just the raw damage you get from the stratagem, but on the vents as well, which would result in some good extra bonus damage, which is decent. Eagle Smoke, as far as a defensive thing, I think it's actually pretty good for just keeping you off radar, their radar, and keeping you more stealthy. If you're trying to avoid as much as possible contact with them, good. If you're trying to just avoid those like laser cannons from across the map, also very solid and good. You are giving up an offensive stratagem. I usually like to err on the side of I'd rather kill the thing than hide from the thing. But for those that want to avoid combat and be more stealthy, I do think it's like solid B+ if you're trying to go for that. I'm going to put it B+ just because like equaling it out. You know, obviously I think a pure stealth player would probably value it closer to an S tier. Orbital Precision. You guys might be surprised to see me put it that high, but it's a very reliable way to do a high burst amount of damage, especially since it comes from a very vertical trajectory and it will often hit the back of the head just because of how vertical it's coming in. It's not really coming from sides too often just because of the angles of where your ships are positioned around the edge of the map. Usually not too much. You're usually around the center of the map, so it's coming from more of a vertical trajectory. Very reliable. I haven't seen it one shot, maybe possible, if you hit it like perfectly between all 3 of the vents and it just does massive splash damage to that part, but it does seem to do like leveler-esque levels of damage. I can pretty reliably bring the Vox to below half health, it seems, so it's actually on fire, and I can then finish it off with like an ultimatum shot or something like that. So as far as like a 1-2 combo, very successful. And like I was talking yesterday, I had that friend that was using Orbital Precision, and then you pair it with Strafing Run to kind of finish it off. That does work quite effectively. Cooldown of the Orbital Precision, not bad, pretty low, so you can use it quite often. Be careful. Sometimes those Vox love to just skate around, and it's not going to work very well if he's just moving like crazy. You kind of want him to hunker down and start like launching missiles or like shooting projectiles. Then you start throwing these kind of more precise stratagems. Like we talked about before, not really great versus with the gas. The actual projectile of it would do some decent damage, but honestly, gas is going to be doing not much, if at all. You're mostly going to be taking this for potentially the ads around it. So not going to be recommending gas for the particular Vox enemy itself. We have Orbital Smoke, another one if you're trying to avoid combat with the Vox itself. decent. But like I said before, there will be gaps sometimes with the Orbital. By the way, it has its bloom. It's not as uniform as the Eagle, so keep that in mind. Unfortunately, Orbital EMS does not actually work. You just can't stun it. I kind of wish you could, but at the same time, I kind of get it, but I do wish you could. It would be really cool if you could stun it. 120mm barrage, extremely good for the overall mission of automatons on Cyberstan. Really like it just for dealing with bot drops and doing significant damage on a relatively low cooldown while having very good anti-side objectives and stuff like that, being able to deal with sensor towers and stuff like that. So really like it. Obviously, the footprint of the Vox is not that big, so your mileage may vary on how accurate and how precise it will be able to do damage to a Vox. It's very possible that it's just going to land around it, or you're just going to do splash damage to tracks, which is doing some damage, but not amazing. Kind of meh at times. 380, I'm going to value higher, almost S tier. And the reason why I'm going to put it there is because if you throw it early enough, it is possible that 380 shells hit the actual ships coming in holding the Vox, which would instantly crack the ship in half, killing the Vox that is attached to it, which is very good. Now, on top of that, it's basically just a lot of precision strikes being thrown at one particular spot. So if you get fairly lucky, you could do damage, and a lot of damage, to quite a few Vox at the same time. If you get fairly lucky, you could actually kill one individual Vox if it takes like 2 projectiles to the back of the head. So very strong, but it's a gamble on whether or not how effective it's going to be. An honorable mention to the Orbital Napalm as far as like an ad clear, and just very good at dealing with a bot drop, especially against all the cyborgs that are very, very, very explosive weak, and fire does a lot of damage to them just because they have no armor or anything like that, and their HP pools are relatively low, so fire is quite nice versus them. As far as the Vox itself, it will take a decent amount of damage, and because of the sustained fire of Orbital Napalm, how many actual projectiles do land, it would do respectable amounts of damage to it. Walking barrage is another one where I don't find it as useful as 380 or 120, but if you have, let's say, a boulevard of Vox in front of you and you just need to eliminate it, it is a relatively good tool, but there is quite a bit of bloom. Like with the 380, it could miss, and because, you know, you're concentrating fire in more of like a larger footprint in a linear fashion rather than in a particular area, I don't find it to be as successful at dealing with bot drops. Vast majority of the Vox are going to be coming from, so dealing with them in those situations is probably your best bet. Next, we have the Gatling barrage. Very good if you can get them to stand still. I've yet to get it to one-shot it. I've heard from my people in my chat that, hey, I used Gatling barrage and it was able to kill a Vox in one go. I can't confirm that, maybe it was hurt or something like that, but it does seem to do good damage if you can get it to sit there and just get pounded by the Gatling barrage rounds. But can you get it to stand there long enough to do that? Sometimes it does. Sometimes the Vox just sits there being an artillery platform, and sometimes he decides to be a race car. Your mileage may vary with that one. All right, Orbital Airburst, I don't recommend, but it is technically a little bit better than I was giving it credit to the other day because of the way it does its shrapnel and it lands. It will do quite a bit of impact damage while also doing explosive damage as well. I'm going to put it C tier. I don't recommend it though. It's going to be doing the vast majority of the damage to the tracks of the Vox, and it will do a relative amount of chip damage, I would say. Orbital Laser, I'm going to put A tier. I'm not going to put it any higher. I want to, but I was having some really weird tracking issues with the lasers today in Cyberstan, and I didn't realize it the day before. I thought it was just being weird and tracking the ships as they were trying to leave, but I had some weird situations where the laser would just kind of go AFK in this random spot with all of these large Vox around it, or like automatons and Hulks. It just kind of went AFK. I don't know why, but when it does work, it's fantastic at dealing with Vox, especially if you're away from fabricators and stuff like that. It will prioritize the Vox, and if it's hitting the back of the head, fantastic damage per second. Like I said in my other video, I think it could take out probably 3, but I would say I would probably urge on maybe 2, but I think if it was maybe some weaker Vox, it could easily take out more than 3 even. Orbital Railcannon, bit of a hard one for me to place just because it does go back into what we were talking about before. If it manages to hit the back of the forehead and like do that impact damage to the vents, I did get it to one-shot a Vox. I was pretty damn impressed on the first day because of that. Now, on subsequent tries, it sometimes hit the cannon, which basically absorbed a lot of the damage, very little bleed through, or it just like did moderate amounts of damage, a little bit less than a leveler or something like that. So good amounts of damage, but I was not ultimately super impressed. I'm gonna put an A just because it's very easy to use. You just kind of toss it and it will target it very reliably, but your mileage may vary on whether or not it's going to one-shot it or just damage it. So not a bad choice, but honestly not particularly too impressed. Next, we are going into our machine guns. I'm gonna put them all around like B to C tier, I want to say, because they're very good at dealing with the vent, but you're not doing over damage to do potentially even more damage to the overall health pool. This is more you're doing the strategy of you're either going for the top vents or the bottom vents, and you're going to be trying to throw a grenade into the vent that opens up when you destroy one of the two groups. So there's the bottom group and it will have a flap that opens up nice and low. I argue that that's probably the better one to go for. And then there's the top one where if you destroy all three, the smiley face, there's a top vent as well. The machine guns are good. They are very good at doing that. But I argue that there are some better weapons that will actually do more bleed through. So if you can't get the grenade into the actual hatch to blow it up, at least you've been doing enough bleed through that most likely it'll die to something else, either your teammate with the spear or Recoilless or something like that. So I'm going to be putting them in B tier just because they are very good at like quickly taking out a bunch of vents, but you're most likely going to be trying to throw a grenade into those hatch, which is a viable strategy, but not always the easiest with how the Vox handle. Sometimes they're just going to shoot lasers at you even when you're underneath. Sometimes they're just going to be turning their head around, and when they start swinging their head around like that, it actually blocks the vent, so you can't even throw the grenade into the vent. And they're going to be moving their like head so much, you're probably going to miss a lot of the grenade throws, which is pretty frustrating. So having a weapon that does lots of bleed through damage typically ends up being actually a lot better, but obviously that strat of like throwing a grenade in is very viable. I did it a lot today, but I found the times that it worked the best is when a Vox was either patrolling or it just dropped from a drop ship and I instantly jumped on them, taking out the vents, and then immediately throwing in the grenade. It didn't work very well if the Vox knew where I was for some amount of time. He was just very good about fleshing me out and not allowing me to throw that grenade in the vent. He was like turning his head constantly towards me and blocking it. So keep that in mind. Flamethrower, you'll do damage to it, but I wouldn't recommend. It's not high enough damage. I guess I wouldn't say the Sterilizer would be in fun tier. It's just D tier. It's not good. Don't do it. Arc Thrower will do damage over time. You're just not going to be doing that much. It could hit a vent technically, but it's going to take so many shocks to actually kill the thing that you probably wouldn't want to be sitting there shocking it, but you are doing damage, just not a ton. I really enjoyed the AMR as far as destroying vents to do overall damage, because it does do a decent amount of bleed through and you can do it very fast. It does one tap them, 2 taps at longer distances, it seemed. I might be just missing, but I believe it was 2 taps at longer distances. But like even in close range, I liked it more than machine guns for doing the grenade hatch. 3 quick taps, throw a grenade in, run off. But even just for doing raw damage to the overall Vox, it was really nice for just taking out all 6. You can do it in 1 magazine very quickly. Honestly, I'm going to put it in S tier just because of that. Speargun was another honorable mention for dealing with vents. You can one tap them. Dealing with the miniguns on the side though, AMR was way better. The Speargun takes 2 shots in order to kill the miniguns on the side. Does feel like an eternity when you're trying to take out those miniguns and they're shooting at you, but it does a high degree of damage per shot, even higher than the AMR in some instances. So you are doing more bleed through, which is sick. And technically it should be taking damage from gas as well, so you can take that into account. I really liked Railgun just for the raw damage output per event. If you're going for the grenade strategy, not great at all, but for like just shooting events, it was extremely good. And if you're getting some really high charges, I think theoretically, if you like high charged all 6 vents, you probably would end up killing the Vox. I have yet to actually have that happen without a teammate or something causing the Vox to take damage, but theoretically I could see it working. And for that reason, it's maybe even an S tier, but it is going to be doing that quite slowly, and the Vox is not always going to let you just sit there nailing all of his vents shut. So I'm going to probably put it A+ for now. Next, we have Expendable Napalm. Like with the other ones, explosive damage is going to be quite limited just because of the explosive resistance, so I'm not loving it. EAT, decent. Throwing it down and just shooting it at the vents if possible, because for the bleed through and the additional damage straight to its health bar, but it doesn't do enough damage to deal with the Vox by itself. It's just doing extra damage, but not as much as other sources. Decent though, not a bad choice to like carry on and help out with other means. Leveler, easily S tier. This thing is disgusting, and it just has so much power on the rest of the map for dealing with ads. Very often you're just going to shoot it at a Vox and you're probably going to take 10 automatons and cyborgs with it. Like I said yesterday, you can get one shots. Aim lower to the main fuselage, try to hit a vent as well. It does very well. Even if you don't one shot it, you just finish it up with like a strafing run or an ultimatum shot, or just like shoot an extra vent or two and he's dead. It's so good and so easy to use, short cooldown, and so good on the rest of the mission. Highly recommend it. Spear was good, but it just doesn't have enough ammo and it doesn't feel like it does enough damage per shot. If it reliably like 2-tapped a Vox, I would be like, yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Potentially like shooting the 2 cannons on the side, just go for the headshot and it'll be great. But the fact that it takes 3 on average makes it really awkward because you only have 4 shots. So the ammo economy on it is not fantastic. I'm not like too crazy about the Spear in that regard, but it's like good enough that I'm going to put it in an A tier. I'm just not like over the moon for it, for sure. Next, we have Commando, basically just another flavor of EAT. You technically could go for 4 individual events, which is actually pretty cool, but I would probably argue like I'd rather just do that with the AMR just like all the time rather than only being able to do it with a cooldown of like over a minute. It's not my go-to, but honorable mention. W.A.S.P, I'm gonna put it in like C tier. Like, yeah, you could just sit there pelting it and doing like okay damage. It just didn't impress me really. If you get a flank shot, you could do some decent damage to the vents, but like it's honestly like maybe B-. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh putting in C. I just wouldn't recommend it really. It's not the go-to weapon, honestly. Like it's gonna take quite a few mags, and you got to make sure that you're not accidentally tracking onto the cannons, like I said, for the Spear, but you're gonna be doing even more for the W.A.S.P, making sure you don't hit that at all. Next, Autocannon. Autocannon I wasn't really impressed with. Obviously the vents are very much explosive immune, so only half the damage of your normal armor piercing shells is gonna be doing damage. Shrapnel is better, but because of the way the shrapnel works, it's kind of like a shotgun blast. So if you're doing it at pretty good range or at a weird angle, you're not always going to have the best success. Also, if you're too close, the flak shots are going to be doing shrapnel like too close to it, and it doesn't actually airburst because you're too close to the target. So honestly, autocannon was like okay. At least it's like the autocannon, so it has a lot of like ammo and it's like easy to use and it's good for dealing with the miniguns on the side, but you're not really going to be doing too well against the hatches all too much. At least you could do like good damage versus the tracks technically if you just aim dump them, but once again, half your damage is going to be explosive reduced, like reduced because of explosive damage. The grenade launcher, it's explosive damage reduction. I just wouldn't recommend it. You could just sit there and like take the 60% penalty to explosive damage and just do damage that way, but I don't think it's like a viable strategy. I would say the belt-fed grenade launcher is probably even a worse form of that, just because you're gonna go through your ammo so much faster, technically doing more damage per second, but like I think it's literally worse. De-Escalator is okay just because of like the raw electrical damage, but once again, you're just doing like chip damage to the overall structure of the enemy. He just has so much HP. You could do some like combined arms against the Vox with it, but it's not doing that much, I gotta say. It really isn't. Recoilless, good, not great, but good for just dealing like extra damage to the Vox that maybe your teammate hit with a leveler and finishing off with your recoilless. I did do that with some of my games where recoilless once, then leveler guarantees the one shot, or the opposite. If the leveler doesn't one shot, I shoot it with a recoilless, decent. Aim for the weak points, get that bonus damage. But taking on a Vox like head on is a pretty slow process, needing to put 4+ rounds into his forehead. Not the best use of your ammo and time. I would definitely try to combo it with something else, either precision strike or the leveler or something like that, just because you're going through a lot of ammo to take this thing out. So not really the best strategy, but from a brute force perspective of just AT power, pretty decent. Next, we have Airburst rocket launcher. I'll give it like a decent mark, even though like the vast majority of damage is just explosive. It will do a lot of explosive damage between those tracks, but it's not something that I'm going to be like recommending too much. The HP pool is just too high on the overall Vox. Next, we have Laser Cannon, solid for taking out the vents, but overall like raw damage, it's just going to be there for that kind of grenade throw. So if you don't want to use a machine gun of some kind or your primary weapon, you do have the Laser Cannon for that. Quasar, I'm going to put it like B tier. I know it's a beloved weapon, very easy to use, auto loading, unlimited ammo. I get it, but it's not much more impressive than just shooting an EAT at it. And technically the EAT you throw down, shoot 2 really fast, but with the Quasar, you got to charge it up, shoot it, wait, then shoot again. And you're gonna have to keep waiting and then shooting again. Whereas with the Recoilless, you're doing 50% more damage on average, sometimes even more, because you're doing 2,000 damage with the Quasar, and I think it was what, 3,500 if my memory serves me right with the Recoilless. So just like damage per shot and damage per second wise, the Recoilless absolutely beats it. And I don't think it's that hard to have ammo supply around with your team, especially with the fact that it's a bot mission. So many people have supply backpack on while you're playing, so ammo is just not that much of a concern. I don't think Quasar is that good of a weapon for the Vox. Maybe I'm being too harsh on it, and like you could just like hit precision shots every once in a while, and at least you're doing sustained damage. You're doing something every 15 seconds on average because of the charge, but it's just not that impressive compared to other options that you may have. I'm going to be a little nice to it and put an A-, but my gut reaction was B+. It's a flag. It's a chain sword. It's a hammer. Okay, I'm going to put the hammer a little bit higher just because the hammer technically has a strategy of like getting on top of the tank treads and just wailing at his head over and over again, or going underneath and trying to hit the weak point down below. But could you just do that with like one of the weapons above a lot easier? Yeah, you could. So is it just like a fun weapon tier? Yeah. So I wouldn't really recommend it, but it is technically a strategy. You could take out a Vox if the stars align, nothing shot at you, you wouldn't manage to get on top, and you just smack his head over and over again. Epoch, honorable mention, man. Very solid damage versus the Vox. Taking it out all by yourself, it's going to take like 9 shots, 3 total reloads, which is pretty lengthy, but you're probably not going to be doing it that way. You're probably going to put like 3 shots into it, then like maybe an orbital precision or a leveler, and that's your combo. Or you do the leveler first, and then you put like 1 or 2 shots into it just to finish it off. It's a really good combo weapon in that regard, and it's just a very effective weapon in the rest of using it on bots. And it's very just easy to use on the Vox just because of the way it deals its damage. You don't have to worry about where to hit it, just kind of hit it anywhere and it will do decent damage. Technically, it has the potential of doing splash damage to the tracks as well and potentially do more damage. So that's an interesting one. Next, you have Solar Silo. I don't love the Solar Silo as much as a leveler. I think it's a bit more finicky and you got to worry about the Solar Silo, being able to actually deploy it and use it before it gets destroyed, because it could get destroyed. And another thing, it could hit a building before it actually hits the actual Vox because of the way the architecture of the mega cities work, or like the mega factories work. Shot goes up, shot goes down, but it could intercept a building on the way. I find that happened far less when I was using the leveler. I was way more consistent with the leveler as far as hitting the target. So yeah, but it's still very good. I'm not gonna like dog on it. It's a great option. If you want to take both the leveler and the Solar Silo, you could just be that guy that just takes it out. Okay, next we have the ballistic shield. I can't really recommend it. Yeah, the miniguns won't fuck with you, but like the major blast damage and the rockets, you're not really tanking that much damage. The only thing this would really help you with is the miniguns. And even then, like the miniguns are not that big of a problem at the moment, just because we have a lot of medium pen weapons that can take care of it pretty fast. And all the weapons above are very good at taking care of them as well. So honorable mention, but not too much. I did like the energy shield for protecting me from potentially being one shot by those, laser cannons. It did absorb a lot of the damage from rockets and obviously miniguns, but I do think it was getting destroyed so fast. It's not like much more than like a middle B kind of choice. It does help, but it's not going to save you for very long. You have to still be very afraid of the Vox at all times. Next, we have the energy shield, the directional energy shield. Very similar to the ballistic shield, but probably even lower just because you have to be aiming down sights to get the benefit. At least with the ballistic shield, when you're not using it, it's at least on your back protecting you. So it's a little bit more useful. Supply backpack, as always, fantastic, very useful for just having extra grenades, being able to tank more damage with stims, and being able to supply all the weapons above. I actually misclicked there. It should be an S tier. It's just so useful, either for you to have it and just like resupply yourself with, you know, thermites, because obviously thermites, 3 thermites kills a Vox. You could just more reliably get more of the Vox into like one-shot range by throwing 2 at each individual one, because you can resupply yourself really fast. That's definitely a strategy. Or just having more nades to throw into the hatch if you maybe miss a couple. C4, very impressive. The more I used it, at first I was like, okay, it's good. It's really good. But the more I used it, the more I appreciated it. Also, realizing that the reason why it took 4 sometimes is that there's speakers on the top of his head. And if you throw the C4 on top of the speakers or on the back missile pods, the damage does not connect through to the main HP pool properly. You want to make sure you're hitting flat surfaces on its head, or trying to hit the like the bottom crotch area of the Vox tank as much as possible to get the reliable 3-shot. But there actually was quite a few times where I was trying to be more ammo efficient, so I could actually take out 3 Vox. So what I was doing was 2 C4 ultimatum shot, 2 C4 on the next one ultimatum shot. That was a really fast, 2 really fast kills on Voxes, and then I would call on my leveler the next one, 1 C4 to finish him off if it didn't kill him, right? So you start doing like these combos to just take out Vox incredibly fast, and you could be an absolute asset to your team with C4. Very strong on it. Obviously, if you can plant the C4 on top of the vents, it will do more damage but you know, you don't have to worry about that too much. Warp Pack, very solid for dodging shots and just, you know, being more mobile, you know, teleporting underneath him, more reliably. Awesome. Highly recommend. Jump Pack, a little bit less so. I didn't like it as much because you can easily be shot out of the sky by the miniguns, whereas teleporting forward, a little less vulnerable. Also, the shorter cooldown of the Warp Pack I did find to be more useful than the longer cooldown of the Jetpack. Obviously with the Jetpack you will get more distance, so you could maybe more easily surprise the Vox, so I can see some more positive aspects, but I would prefer to use the Warp Pack more often. I didn't find height to be very important when fighting the Vox. Like obviously you could try and like hover pack up and then swing the hammer a bunch, and that would be fun tier, but I didn't really think it would be that useful. One thing I just thought of is like if you hit the 3 on top to get an easier grenade toss in, you could like hover backpack up and then throw the grenade into the top vent at the back of the head. I could see that, but I'm still going to put it in C tier. I think that's too niche of an element. Arc Dog, like we've talked about before, could do somewhat reliable chip damage to the Vox, but it's not stunning it. It's just kind of meh. You know, Machine Gun Guard Dog, it's a Machine Gun Guard Dog. It's not going to do anything. Same with Laser Guard Dog. Gas Guard Dog, no. Fire Guard Dog, it will do some chip damage technically alongside the Arc Guard Dog, but not enough to really mention. Hellbomb Backpack, amazing. It will one-shot the Vox, and you can one-shot multiple of them. If you see multiple drop in a bot drop, I'm the first guy that I'm arming that backpack, running in, dropping it, running away, and killing a bunch. It's extremely good for bot drops inside the city, because I find the density of the bot drops and how many units there are, and being able to deal with those Vox as soon as possible is just so good. And the Hellbomb Backpack has the benefit of just being so useful on the rest of the mission. Being able to take out those orbitals, being able to take out the stratagem jammers, being able to take out those really pesky hornets that are flying around on the sky, those gunships, especially with their accuracy increases. Really useful to have the Hellbomb Backpack. Highly recommend. All right, next for the mechs, C tier. They could potentially do lots of damage, but they just so often just get absolutely destroyed by the Vox. They're just so good at sniping it with the laser cannons, or even just a random rocket landing too close. The amount of times I just lost one of the arms, like within like a minute of trying to shoot at Vox. If you just go in there guns a-blazing, I think you could like maybe potentially bring it up to B tier by just like spamming all your munitions at it as soon as possible, but it's not particularly good. It's not like fighting the Hive Lord where you can dodge a lot of the damage. Those Vox, man, they don't miss. They don't miss, and you're a pretty easy target to get hit. I don't recommend the FRV. You will get bullied. You will absolutely get bullied. The tank is incredibly solid. I'm gonna put a B tier just because of the bug currently on Cyberstan. You lose half of your overall ammunition just for playing on Cyberstan with the tank right now. It does get absolutely melted by the Vox, but because of the higher HP pool of the tank, you can survive a lot more versus the Vox, and it just does so much damage. Like, remember, snipe the dropship out of the sky, the Vox is just dead immediately, which is really good. And then, you know, obviously, if it does hit the ground, you can kill them, you know, within 2 to 3 shots on average. I was getting quite a few 2 shots. Aim lower, get the explosive damage to work for you, especially if you can hit a weak point like one of the radiators. You can definitely bring it down to 2 shots. Highly recommend. And be using the machine gun in between to shoot at weak points, shooting the miniguns, or just shoot the track to do damage to the overall health pool. There is some bleed through on that. So, you know, in between the reloads, keep using that machine gun. You have 2,000 rounds. You probably won't go through all 2,000 rounds before your tank dies. Trust me, just hold it down. All right, next you have the machine gun sentry. It does try to shoot the tracks and stuff like that, but it's a medium pen thing. It's not gonna shoot weak points, so it's not particularly amazing. I'm gonna put it down here just because like it technically tries to do something, but it's like a good job turret, good try. Like you should probably be shooting something else. Laser turret, technically a little bit better because it has that extra pen, but you know, not great. I'm gonna put it bottom C tier. Fire turret, it's not like, if it even like, the only benefit I could see about using this fire turret is the Vox turret, or the Vox tank loves to look at turrets, delete them, then look at you again. So you could technically use it as a distraction. And maybe for that reason, I'd put the machine gun sentry a little higher because of the short cooldown. Maybe autocannon sentry, you probably won't get many shots off, but let's say in some miraculous situation, somehow the autocannon turret gets enough damage off, it'll do good damage, but it'll just get shot at almost immediately. I didn't find this turret or the rocket sentry to be particularly good. It just gets deleted so fast. It can't put its damage out. Luckily, these turrets are good on the rest of the mission, but like if a Vox shows up, he's rocketing this thing almost immediately. He's lasering this thing almost immediately. The only positive thing is that it's not shooting at you when it's shooting at them. The mortar, it's not really going to do anything, but like I said with the other turrets, at least it's taking some aggro away from you, but your teammates are going to hate you when you take this, so because it's going to get them killed, so probably don't take it. I'm going to put it down here, so hopefully people don't take it. I'm doing this for you. EMS, it's not doing anything to the Vox per se, but at least it's doing something for the rest of the mission. It will be stunning a lot of the enemies around the Vox, so at least it's got that going for it, and it will be taking some aggro off of you, and you can hide it behind things, so it's not going to get that much aggro, I guess. It still will get a lot of aggro, but not as much because you can put it behind walls and other things like that. It doesn't need direct line of sight. All right, now for all the mines. I'm going to put them down here at first, at least for the anti-personnel and the incendiary. Don't take them. Your teammates are going to not like you, please. Your mines are going to get stuck in the ground. They're not going to be visible. Your teammates are going to run over them. They're going to die, and the missions are already hard enough. And we only have a certain amount of reserves on Cyberstan. Just please don't bring these anti-personnel mines or incendiary mines. Just please, for the love of the MO, please. And it's not good against the tank. It's not good. It might look cool when he runs over it, but it's not doing that much damage. It's not. Anti-tank mines, honestly, really disappointing, but a little bit higher just because it doesn't hurt your teammates, and it is doing bigger boom, more damage, but it's not good. Like, all seriousness here, it's not particularly great. I find the Vox very rarely actually ran over them, and if you try to put it in front of the Vox, yeah, they'll splash onto him, but I don't even think it really did that much damage. It was pretty disappointing. I was disappointed. Gas mines, they're not really doing much to the tank, obviously itself, but it's creating an environment where all the other units are so like engulfed in gas, they're not probably going to be shooting at you. And it might make it easier for you to get underneath the Vox with all the gas going on, because the enemies around the Vox are not going to be, you know, nearly as accurate on you. You know, obviously that kind of strategy would work with maybe smoke as well. You could try smoking the Vox and then shooting weak points and stuff like that, but it will make it harder for you to shoot vents and throw the grenade in. So your mileage may vary with this strategy in general. Tesla Tower, at least it can tank. It has a lot of HP, so it did delay it dying quite fast, and it does do a sizable amount of damage through anti-tank, and it's pretty damn good against the rest of the automaton forces, you know, especially the cyborgs. So decent, honestly. I was kind of impressed. It did delay, you know, quite a few Vox from coming over to me, and I had some really good shots because of that. Like, I kind of threw it on the far side. It turned away from me. Got some really good shots on the vents. Decent. Highly recommend bringing the energy shield. Not like absolute game changing, but just really solid for helping you take care. Like if you're trying to use, let's say, the anti-tank emplacement, which we're going to talk about, you know, solid A, but the anti-tank emplacement doesn't feel very good if you don't pair it with the shield grenade or with the shield generator. It's not going to feel as good. But when paired together, the anti-tank emplacement can delete, like, within its ammunition supply, I would say around 4 to 5 Vox if all you're doing is spamming at them. Because I think it takes around like 8 shots to the forehead, not assuming you're hitting any weak points. Like, obviously if you're hitting vents, you're bringing that number down, but it's around 8 shots to the forehead. At least those were the numbers I was seeing pretty consistently. So you're taking out at least 4 Vox, assuming you're not hitting any weak points. Very good. But you're going to want to pair it with some kind of shield generator, because like I said with the rest of them, you're going to get focused down really fast. The Vox hate any green stratagem. Hate them. So yeah, be careful. Grenade emplacement. This thing is a death trap. Because of what I said before, you are going to get focused down. And if you're on the emplacement while this thing blows up, you're dead immediately. It still has that bug, like I said in my previous video. So be careful if you're going to bring this on Cyberstan. Be very careful. It's very good because it has heavy pen now, and you could just like splash the tank treads like crazy with this thing for 60 rounds. And I think theoretically it could kill a Vox. I never actually sat there or survived long enough with it to do that, but theoretically you should be able to kill a Vox like that. You won't be able to kill the vents just because explosive damage doesn't damage the vents, but theoretically it could work. HMG emplacement is our last one. I'm going to assume that you're using some kind of shield generator to protect yourself. If you are, you could do a sizable amount of damage to weak points and the miniguns and the tank treads with the HMG emplacement, but I'm going to assume you have something to protect yourself. It is better than the, you know, other emplacements in the sense that, like, obviously it's very versatile. You can take out a lot of different enemies. You can protect yourself on it, but it's not particularly amazing. It really isn't. Okay, one final thing I just want to do some like honorable mentions in game of like things that I like were using. Obviously all your ARs good for taking out the vents. Damage per second is the name of the game. Marksman rifles amendment, 2 taps event. Really loved it. Really nice. Sensors should be 3 tap. I think Deadeye would be 2 tap. You know, things like that. You know, Knight, really good damage per second. It would be good on the vents. Slugger, Cookout, not really. Double it. Freedom, you could 1 tap each vent. So boom, boom, reload, boom, boom. Very good. Very good. Honestly, I really liked it. M98A, I think should be able to 1 tap it. I didn't get a 1 tap, but I think I wasn't close enough when using it. But honorable mention there. Crossbow, don't use it versus the vents. It's not going to do anything really. Eruptor, use it versus the vents. It'll 1 tap it. Another one, Trident felt quite good. Double-edged sickle felt quite good. Sickle itself. Scorcher, don't do it. A lot of the damage is explosive. Purifier, don't do it. A lot of damage is explosive. Variable, very fun one. If you put the total shot on, it does massive amounts of damage through the vent, right? Vent dies, and you're doing a lot of damage to the main HP pool. Theoretically, if you just keep shooting the variable total at the vents, you should be able to kill the Vox before you run out of vents, or as you run out of vents. I haven't tried this one. I'm going to try it on stream tomorrow, but it might work. Dominator, obviously really nice for taking out vents. Torture, decent. Ultimatum, amazing. Like amazing at dealing with the Vox. If you're going to be doing any of the primaries, you want to be doing more damage per second, verdict, you know, things of that nature, things that you can fire pretty fastly. I wouldn't really recommend Talon too much. Luna has come to join us. Hi, Luna. You want to take a seat? Say hi, Luna. Luna has arrived. We were wondering where you were, Luna. All right. Next, I guess Bushwhacker, not necessarily a bad option, just for spam firing it. Throwables. As far as like throwing inside the vent, it's any throwable that isn't a sticky or an impact. So that means, yes, you could throw a smoke grenade inside of the vent, like that opens up after the 3 are destroyed, and kill it with a smoke grenade. Also, chat confirmed, it does work with the stun grenade. So if you want to do that, all the power to you. But I was mostly just using the pyrotechnic grenade just because you get 6 of them. You get 3 back on a resupply. Really loved it. Felt great. One thing I didn't try a throwing knife. Let me know in the comments. Does it work? I actually don't know. Thermite, 3 thermites to take out a Vox, but you know, I would probably throw 2 and then finish it off with like, let's say, your equilibrium or something like that. I don't know why I said equilibrium, your ultimatum. Arc grenade, not bad. You can throw it inside the vent and it technically would do some decent damage to the tracks. Also dynamite. Frag grenade's another good one for the vents just because you get the bonus because you actually get extra grenades when throwing them. But yeah, that's going to conclude the video for today and my tier list for taking out the Vox. Obviously, this is early days with the Vox tank. You know, like things could be discovered and I'll try to update in future tier lists and stuff like that. But as far as like day 2 of the Cyberstan attack, this is what we're kind of seeing. Luna wants to say goodbye, and so do I. If you guys enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and a comment down below. What are you guys finding? What are your combos? What's your loadouts? I would love to know. Another one that I am curious on is come on by the stream and let me know what you guys are finding to be like your go-to. Like, just let me know. Come on by the stream. Maplewood_TV on YouTube. It's my secondary YouTube channel. Not this one, but it's a secondary YouTube channel for the stream. Or come over by Twitch. I'm streaming early morning NA, 3 a.m. EST to about noon EST for all the Cyberstan attack. Yeah, come on by. Love to have you there. Bye, YouTube. Peace out.